Tony is standing by downtown with more. Tony, what do you have?
Maurice, I have a little bit more information that helps shape the timeline of what unfolded here this afternoon. I'm told that a Port Authority police officer from the Holland Tunnel Command was on patrol, and he was flagged down at West and Spring Street. So that's just about 4 blocks south of Houston, right near the exit from the Holland Tunnel. He was flagged down about a woman hit by a vehicle. So it sounds like this terror attack started to unfold very quickly after this rental truck came into Manhattan. We're told it was picked up at a Home Depot in Jersey City, and that police are investigating that angle. So from West and Spring Street, this female was hit. They broadcast information about what happened and that this vehicle had left the scene. Another Port Authority police officer on patrol near Vesey and West Street, so several further blocks south, was flagged down by an off-duty New York City Police Department sergeant who said he needed help. There were 3 young men who I'm told were dead at the scene, and then a severely injured female. These were all bikers who were hit by this truck. So first responders from a variety of agencies very quickly involved here because this part of the city is so heavily policed. They were very quickly on the scene, and this Port Authority officer and this off-duty New York City Police Department sergeant very quickly started doing what they could to try to aid the injured at the scene, but we're told that there were 3 males DOA at that scene at Vesey and West Street, 1 female injured, and again this was a second scene south from West and Spring Street where the first report of a person injured was a female injured there. I'm at the corner of Chambers and Greenwich. There are so many educational institutions in this part of the city. There's an elementary school right across the street. You have the Borough of Manhattan Community College at the end of the street. And of course, on the other side of the street, you have Stuyvesant High School, perhaps the most famous high school in New York City, certainly the most competitive and the most difficult to get into. So lots of young people in this area. We're also showing you many videos that people took on their smartphones. And when they're shot through a window, many of those videos are coming from the Borough of Manhattan Community College. I spoke earlier this afternoon with 2 young women, students at that school, who were in class when they saw this scene starting to unfold outside their window.
We were just sitting in class like normally, regular day in class, and then some girl just got up. It was like around 3:15, right?
Yeah.
She just got up, like someone just got shot. And then when we ran to the window, we just saw 2 dead bodies. Well, first we saw the first one, and he was just laying there. And then
they were across the highway on the bike path?
Right across the street, where we could see everything. And then when we looked towards the left, there was another dead body, and he was just curled up in a ball and right near a tree. And that's when everything just went crazy.
To know that this could happen anytime, any day, is really scary.
Those young women were telling me just how distraught they felt after this. Their smartphones immediately started buzzing with phone calls and text messages, WhatsApp messages from friends and family who knew that they were in class at the Borough of Manhattan Community College. As awareness of this attack spread, people obviously contacting them, trying to desperately make sure that they were okay. And you can bet a lot of people are spreading the word tonight that they are okay. But as we know, 8 people will not be going home to their families tonight, 8 dead and more than a dozen injured. And Maurice and Christine, I want to talk a little bit, because I've covered this extensively over the months, about the Rumaya magazine that John Miller mentioned in the NYPD press briefing. This is a magazine published every month by ISIS. It's published in more than a half-dozen languages, and it's widely available online. And in November of last year, the English language version of Rumaya magazine included an article that was called Just Terror Attacks. And the gist of this was that for people who believe in jihad, they were justified in attacking the quote-unquote infidels using trucks. The entire article was about how to carry out some of these truck attacks. It talked about how to rent the truck. It talked about what size truck to find. It mentioned that the NYPD is monitoring many of these truck rental businesses in and around the tri-state, and it talked about how to escape detection and how to escape suspicion. So this is something that the terror terror groups who are trying to radicalize over the internet these lone wolf terrorists. This is something they've very much been focused on, and you guys might even remember this was in the November issue, and they specifically mentioned the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade in New York City, which caused a lot of concern and stepped up security at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade back in November. Again, this is Rumaya magazine. It's published by ISIS. They've been calling for these kinds of attacks, and now 16 years, 1 month and 20 days after an act of hate was visited on New York on 9/11, almost 3,000 people killed at the World Trade Center site, we have another attack that has devastated the city and is causing so much concern. Maurice, Christine.
Oh, Tony. As we also heard John Miller saying, the NYPD has sort of, how do you call it, has sort of played out many of these scenarios in terms of trying to prevent and deal with such attacks, correct?
They have. They constantly not only have real-life tests, but they have tabletop tests as well. They will have a scenario where they will say, you know, send the Hercules team to this location or that location just to test how quickly they could get on the scene and then how to have that response. And then, of course, they do tabletop exercises all the time. But when you talk to Commissioner O'Neill, when you talk to John Miller, when you talk to any of the top brass in the NYPD, this is the thing that they absolutely dread. You know, they work to take out terrorists who are plotting, but if a terrorist keeps something in a very small circle and isn't telling a lot of people about what he's doing, or in some cases is self-radicalized and may have told no one, and those are just very, very difficult to stop. They admit that they're difficult to stop. So that's why in some places, including Times Square, even as they try to eliminate the threats, they're hardening some of the targets where people congregate, because they know that if someone really wants to do something like this, I mean, how difficult is it to get your hands on a vehicle and drive it into a crowd? And it's a terrible thing to say, but it's the truth. This is exactly the kind of terror attack that they have been fearing, and we saw it happen here today. Halloween 2017, a day that we will never forget in New York City.
No, you got it, Tony. You capsulized it very well there. Thank you so much.